Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Okikulu here in Lagos, and these are the biggest political stories making the rounds at this time. President Bola Tinubu rallies Ogoniland leaders in his bid for a successful takeoff of the government's plan to restart oil exploration in the area. But is this enough to resolve the age-long disputes and grievances? Will we find out? And ahead of state, council and by-elections coming up this year, political party chairmen, including Labour Party's Julius Abure, PDP's Damagum and APC's Keduje, meet in the nation's capital at the behest of the chairman of INEC. And that's where we start off on the show this afternoon. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, is holding his first consultative meeting 2025 with leaders of political parties in Nigeria. And in attendance are chairmen and national secretaries of all 18 registered political parties or their representatives. The ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, is represented by its national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, represented by Acting National Chairman Umar Damagum, and that of Labour Party, Mr. Julius Abure, is also present. Well, this meeting is expected to discuss matters relating to elections lined up for the 2025 election year, which include the forthcoming governorship election in Anambra State later in the year, the FCT area councils elections, and some isolated by-elections in some states. Well, this is a developing story, and we'll bring you more updates from that meeting. Now, speaking of meetings, President Bola Tinubu is assuring Ogoni leaders that his administration will prioritize peace, justice, and sustainable development in Ogoniland. Speaking during a meeting with a delegation of over 50 Ogoni leaders, including Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State and the FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, President Tinubu called for unity and reconciliation as he asked the Ogoni people to set aside historical grievances and work together to achieve peace, development, and a clean environment. He then directed the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, to coordinate negotiations as a call for inclusive consultation and mutual understanding. Our State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, reports.
The delegation of Ogoni leaders arrived in the State House for their meeting with President Bola Tinubu. They led to the council chamber, venue of the meeting. Also present at the event is the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, ministers and aides. Once the President arrives, the national anthem is taken and the meeting commences. The Governor of Rivers State thanked the President for his support for the Ogoni people and for receiving the delegation.
The love we have for you, the respect we have for you, is just for you to say, you're behind that meeting, we should go back and continue the consultation with a timeline so that this issue of oil, resumption of oil operation in Ogoniland will commence. I can assure you that we'll give you all the necessary support to make you succeed in this assignment that other government has failed to achieve.
The National Security Advisor, who also spoke, commended the Ogoni people for their trust in President Tinubu, for embracing dialogue as a path to meaningful progress and enduring solutions.
Your Excellency, the presence of this delegation is a testament to the Ogoni people's readiness to engage constructively in the pursuit of peace, justice, and a sustainable development. Their willingness to participate in this dialogue reflects a shared hope for meaningful progress and enduring solutions.
The President emphasizes the need for unity and reconciliation.
We cannot in any way rewrite the history, but we can correct some anomalies going forward. let us put the grievances of the past aside. It cannot heal the wounds, but I know what to do in the memory of our beloved ones, so that their sacrifices will not be in vain.
After the meeting, the Minister of Environment outlined some of the federal government's efforts to address the extensive oil pollution in Ogoniland.
In the area of remediation, what is the most important area we are trying to address, we have done about 36 sites. They have been completed and they have been certified as environmentally conducive for people to continue doing that. In the area of mangrove, so far we have planted more than 2 million seedlings of mangrove in the last 6 months, and we're still on that.
This meeting appears to set the stage for more consultations that will bring peace, development, and a clean environment back to Ogoniland. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Well, let's touch base with the region. We're joined by the Executive Director, Youth and Environmental Advocacy Center, Mr. Fineface, Dumnamene Fineface. You're welcome to Lunchtime Politics, Mr. Fineface. And straight to it, would you say this is the road to peace at last and resumption of oil exploration in Ogoniland?
Thank you for having me, Kayode. I will say that this engagement with Mr. President is a process of, officially flagging off what they call the consultation with the Ogoni people in terms of what they plan to do, which is oil resumption in Ogoniland. But I would think that it is too early for them to put oil resumption with a timeline, like the governor of Rivers State have said, at the forefront when the wounds of the Ogoni people have not been properly healed. Now, the Ogoni struggle hovers around 3 pillars. We talk about the political marginalization, economic triangulation, and environmental degradation. In the area of environmental degradation, that is being attempted now through the hydrocarbon pollution remediation project. And the Ogoni wounds, following the killing of the Ogoni leaders in the 1990s, is also very serious currently, because a lot of things that happened at that time have not been addressed. Now, the Ogonis have not been exonerated like the Ogonis are demanding for. And one will expect that what the meeting should talk about is how to address the issue of exonerating the Ogoni leaders, including Ken Saro-Wiwa, even releasing the Ken Saro-Wiwa memorial boards that were confiscated under the Buhari administration have not been talked about. And the Ogonis are talking about what needs to be done based on the Ogoni Bill of Rights that was presented to the federal government of Nigeria in 1990. So all of these issues must be addressed holistically before we talk about oil resumption. The cleanup of Ogoniland that is ongoing through the hydrocarbon pollution remediation project has not even been achieved up to 40%. And we are talking about new pollution in addition to what we have on the ground. I think that is not the best way to go at this point in time. Let the issues be properly addressed before we now talk about resumption of oil. It is too premature. I know quite well that it is now 32 years since oil production stopped in Ogoniland, but I think that a lot still needs to be done. And the consultation process may take over 5 years if they are not serious and put plans in place the way they need to do before they can address these issues.
Well, some people have come out, in fact, some CSOs, over 10 of them, through their spokesperson, that Human and Environmental Development Agenda header, Larry Suraj, and this, for them, say it's insensitive for the Tinubu government to open any form of discussion with those they described as hand-picked group of Ogoni leaders. Looking at the people in that room, what do you have to say, particularly to this statement made by these CSOs, those they considered as hand-picked? Do you think this was representative enough of the Ogoni people?
Well, I look at the elders that were in that room. I know almost all of them. I am an Ogoni man myself, and I think that they are a cross-section, a cream of Ogoni leaders. I wouldn't say they were handpicked. I know quite well that appointments of people who will represent the Ogonis must be done to have people there. So to me, those who were there are relatively, to a very large extent, those who can speak for Ogoni. So I don't condemn those who were selected to be at that meeting. But the point is for them to come back home and relate with the people through the consultative process. The statement you talk about by the CSO, I also joined in signing that statement as the Executive Director of the Youth and Environmental Advocacy Center, YES in Nigeria. The point here is that a lot needs to be done, and we are demanding for $1 trillion to be released look at the pollution in Ogoniland. It's not something that I think will be completed within the time frame that they are talking about. We are getting and hearing a lot of hasty statements, like the Minister of Environment said, that some sites have been cleaned, people could return and stuff. Like, a lot still needs to be done. The shoreline cleanup have not been carried out. And these are some of the things that the CSOs, civil society organizations, are talking about. A lot of these things must be holistically addressed before we talk about oil resumption in Ogoni. So we are still far from getting to the point of talking about oil resumption. A lot of issues and things that needs to be done are still there and they are yet to be done. So some of those things should be addressed before we talk about this. So the CSO statement, I stand by it. And I also not condemn those who met with Mr. President. It is a consultative process. More people will meet with Mr. President. More people will still be going to that meeting. So I believe that the door has just been opened for this process to go on for proper consultation with the Ogoni people. And part of those consultation processes, just like what we are doing now, to put in out those things that we think needed to be done before we talk about oil resumption in Ogoni.
I want to get a sense of how the people view the president in that sense. Would you say that there's some trust for this government, some sort of goodwill, because that really matters in issues like this? If they have goodwill towards a certain leader, then it's going to be easier to pass whatever resolutions through. So how would you describe the feelings of the Ogoni people towards this particular government? Has this government done right by them so far for them to say, okay, well, we'll listen to you and agree?
Yes, I think I would say that the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is, the Ogoni people view him as someone that they can listen to. Because I must tell you that there was a time we made complaints in the past whereby the head of the hydrocarbon pollution remediation project was removed. And the Ogoni people went to him. You have to reinstate him. And he did. So he listened to us at that point in time. And now, having come forward to present this matter, I think Ogoni people will listen to him. You recall that during the Buhari administration, what we heard was just that a company has been given contract to go ahead and extract oil in Ogoniland. And that caused a lot of issues at that time. But this administration is not just sending a company to Ogoni, but engaging with the Ogoni people. So I think the Ogoni people are willing to listen to him. They are willing to interact with him. They are willing to see him put in place that political will that is needed. So as part of this process, Ogoni leaders have met with him. They have gone back. What I want to hear in the days ahead is that the Ogoni 913 have been exonerated. I want to also hear that the Ken Sarawiwa Memorial Boss that was seized under the government of former President Muhammadu Buhari has been released to the Ogoni people. I also want to hear a lot of statements that will heal the Ogoni wounds and be able to address a lot of these issues that we have on the ground. The Ogoni Bill of Rights of 1990 presented to the federal government is right there with Mr. President. So you should look at some of these issues and then the people of Ogoni will listen to him. And I believe that if that is done, then he may be on the track of being able to resume oil extraction in Ogoniland when all of the issues surrounding these demands have been met.
I was speaking of healing the wounds. Yes, you've talked about the political issues, economic, environmental, and all of that. And I think he probably referenced some of those when he was speaking. But, you know, something very evident, perhaps the elephant in the room there yesterday was the presence of the governor of Rivers State and the FCT minister. And from what we've seen and heard about that meeting, political issues were not discussed. But, I mean, look at them. They were all smiles eventually after that meeting. But how well do you think this can sail through if at least those two major leaders are not on the same page?
Yeah, I think former Governor Nyesom Wike and the current governor of Rivers State, who are at loggerhead as a result of their political differences, came together. They buried their differences. They put aside their grievances and anything that separated them and came together in the name of Rivers State and for the benefit of Rivers State. And that is what leaders should do. No matter the differences you have, when it is time to talk about development, time to talk about coming together as a people, we bury our individual differences and put the generality of the people, their interests, at the forefront. So I think that as far as this matter is concerned, and for the fact that the FCT minister stood by the left-hand side of Mr. President and the governor stood by the right-hand side of Mr. President, and all of them were at that meeting, they spoke without bringing up any political issues. It's a resolve by the Rivers people, not only Ogoni, that anything that has to do with development should come to Rivers State, because any development that comes to Rivers State will also benefit the Ogoni people. And any development that comes to Ogoni will benefit the Rivers people. That is why you see that unity. So I think that should continue and the discussion should continue so that we can see how far the demands of the Ogoni people that are put on the table will also be presented to Mr. President, and they are addressed within the shortest possible time so that this consultation process can be very, very smooth.
Perhaps we can drive the point home further by talking about the cost of this political conflict, because these things have their effect as well. So how much of a negative impact would you say this political impasse between the current governor, former governor, has had on the region itself, which is very vital to the nation's economy?
Political differences between the FCT minister and the governor have had very serious negative impact on Rivers State. Rivers State is seen as the capital of the South-South, and whatever affects Rivers State affects other parts of the South-South and the Niger Delta and Nigeria as a whole. So the political crisis in Rivers State is bringing about political instability. And that means that investors cannot come to Rivers State and put in their money. If you look at the report we got in 2024, it has it that there was no foreign direct investment into Rivers State for the whole year 2024. And that is because investors wouldn't want to put their money where the crisis is on the ground, the political system is not stable. They will not even be able to process any developmental stride through the state assembly, where you also have crisis. So it is important for the political crisis in Rivers State to be addressed and all parties come on board, come on the same page so that these issues of development, people not coming to invest in Rivers State, can be addressed. But in as much as the political crisis continues, then Rivers State will continue to suffer from the challenges that is facing the political system, and development will continue to suffer in Rivers State. And the people of Rivers State are those that are bearing the brunt, because so far, this is 2025, 2 years have gone by. Rivers people have not really seen that synergy that we should expect from when we have a son of Rivers State as the FCT minister, we have a governor in Rivers State, that they are supposed to synergize and work together to bring about development in Rivers State. So it is high time they bury their political differences, address it, come on the same page and be able to attract development into Rivers State. And when investors are seeing those kind of things happening, they will also bring their money and invest in Rivers State, and Rivers people will benefit. It is very important that from the piece we have seen, following the consultation that we saw with the Ogoni leaders and the FCT minister, the governor coming together and presenting a common front to Mr. President, that should continue into the political arena so that Rivers people will continue to have benefit from them being at the center and the person at the state level.
Maybe we can even stretch this further and look at what, the conflict and the grievances in Ogoniland has cost Nigeria as a nation in terms of crude oil exploration. I know you said that this should not even be part of the discussion just yet, but maybe this can help to put things in proper perspective. Ever since oil exploration stopped, the oil spillage, trying to clean it up, talking about hundreds of thousands of liters spilled. How much would you say this has cost the nation itself?
I think the stoppage of oil extraction in Ogoni in 1993, 32 years today, has cost the nation so much. It has cost them more than what they would have given to the Ogoni people, that the Ogoni people were demanding for, to have a fair share, participate in the process, and be part of the entire process in such a way that they have benefit from oil. Nigeria has suffered a lot, and a lot of people keep saying that Ogoni people should not be given opportunity because they have not allowed oil to flow through their soil. But we want to let them understand that the oil they took from 1958, when they struck the Bomu oil field in Ogoniland, till 1993, when oil stopped, the Ogoni people never had any benefit from it. And since there was the stoppage of oil extraction in Ogoni in 1993 to date, we have not also really seen the benefit from what Ogonis have given out before. So the suffering is very much, it's affecting everybody. The government of Nigeria is losing resources. The Ogoni people that are supposed to be employed are not getting employment. And all of these things are boiled down to the fact that even as we speak, the world is moving away from fossil fuel to renewable energy. And we cannot continue to have this remain under the soil. That is why they need to do all they can so that if the Ogoni people permit them in generality that they should come and extract oil, they can come and get it, because very soon, crude oil, fossil fuel is going to be obsolete. Nigeria is talking about net zero by the year 2060. And I think that it is high time they address the Ogoni issues as enshrined in the Ogoni Bill of Rights, so that the Ogonis can open the door for them to come in and extract the oil, and then they can be able to have benefit for the country, for the states, and every other Nigerian, including the Ogoni people.
And seeing the posturing of US President Donald Trump, particularly for fossil fuels, him saying, drill, baby, drill. And you see countries using that to their benefit. So I really hope that Nigeria is able to harness all of that on time while it is still useful. But we have to thank you so much. Quite a number of issues that you have raised over 31 years now and still counting. So we'll see how well this government is able to handle the issues and, return Ogoniland to what it was and even better than what it used to be. We'll have to thank you once again. We've been speaking with the Executive Director, Youth and Environmental Advocacy Center, Mr. Fineface Dumnamene. Fineface, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, while we keep following the developments in that region, let's head over to northern Nigeria now, where parents of those killed and injured during the August 2024 nationwide protest, that's the End Bad Governance protests, are urging the government to provide compensation and ensure that those responsible for the tragic incidents face justice. We're speaking to journalists. The parents from Borno, Jigawa, Kaduna, and Kano states recounted their devastating experiences and called for swift action to address their grievances. And now to the courts. Now, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has commenced presentation of its witnesses at the Edo Election Petition Tribunal, sitting on the petition before the court by the PDP and its governorship candidate, Mr. Asuegu Dallo, challenging the outcome of the September 21st, 2024 governorship election. Well, counsels to the respondents in the matter, the Independent National Electoral Commission, the APC, and the governorship candidate of the APC, Senator Monday Okwevolo, objected to the admissibility of some of the evidence tendered by the witnesses, but reserved their arguments for their final written addresses.
PDP, they have called their two witnesses so far. There was a submission in chief, cross-examination, they tendered documents. Of course, as they tendered some documents, these documents were also objected to by opposing counsels. But they could not argue the objection now, but also informed the court that at the end, when they are writing their written addresses, they will now give their reasons for objection.
And over to the National Assembly, where the Senate is pushing for the conduct of a national population census before the end of the current administration. Well, this commitment was reiterated during a budget defense session with the chairman of the National Population Commission in the nation's capital. The chairman of the Committee on National Identity Management and Population, Senator Abdul Ningi, says the Senate is preparing to meet with President Tinubu to emphasize the urgency of conducting the census not just before the end of this administration, but this year, 2025. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Mezoke, reports.
The appearance of the chairman and officials of the National Population Commission is in continuation of the 2025 budget defense sessions in the National Assembly.
2025 budget.
As the chairman of the commission reels out an increased budgetary proposal of 18.27 billion naira for 2025, an air of discontent settled in the room as the protracted challenge of the national census is rekindled.
I feel bad that up to date we're still postulating or using estimate at a very modern world where we would want to bring a modern Nigeria. Because there's no way you can plan when you don't know the people you are planning for. We need to say, yes, performance of 90-something%, but that's not the expected performance that Nigerians are expecting from the Nigerian Population Commission. We want to know our population.
We need to find a way of talking to the leadership of the nation. How can we just in this year be referring to foreign data? You're referring to UNICEF, who will come to your office for what they are doing. Use the National Assembly leadership, this chairman's leadership, and us to get to Mr. President. If there's election now, they will not postpone election because of money. There are other critical assignments that government think they are very necessary and they will not postpone. They postpone other things for what is considered very important. We have to let the government know that this is equally very, very important.
Lawmakers took turns to lambaste the procrastination that has accompanied the nation's population census in the last 19 years.
We are not going to rest on our arse until this census takes place within the jurisdiction of this government by Allah's grace.
I have written to see Mr. President so that I can brief him. He wants the census to be conducted with biometrics. And we don't want to also be accusing the riverine people of counting fishes in the north of counting cows. So if we do census with biometrics, you can be definitely sure that people were actually enumerated.
What you want.
Elsewhere, the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy appears before a joint committee addressing various queries while advocating for increased funding.
Dredging of the River Niger. What are the plans there?
Yes, the issue of dredging is very important to ensure that our waterways are navigable at all times. Again, there's need to make adequate funding available. My appeal is to the committee to please ensure that we want us to be able to unlock the potentials in the economy. There's a need for proper funding.
Meanwhile, against the backdrop of the recent telecoms hike, the ministry tenders more explanations.
The hike is also based on inflation globally. This is a sector that has not increased price for a long time. But also, how do we support them to ensure that these companies continue to stay sustainable? This is a sector that employs about 15,000 people directly, but also the price hike is not significant to the point where it becomes painful for our people.
As the budget's defense deadline narrows, more officials are expected into the National Assembly this week to defend their proposed budgets. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Let's now take you back to the meeting between the chairmen of political parties in Nigeria and, of course, the national secretaries with INEC. This is a very first consultative meeting in the year with the leaders of political parties in attendance. The chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, Mr. Abdullahi Ganduje, the People's Democratic Party is represented by the acting national chairman, Umar Demagu, and Labour Party is represented by Mr. Julius Abure. And this meeting is expected to discuss matters relating to elections lined up for the year, which include forthcoming governorship election in Anambra State later this year, the FCT area council elections, and some isolated by-elections in some states. And there you have it, Lunchtime Politics for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikiodu. Stay with Channels Television for all of your breaking and political stories.